it's a good friend of mine. So when I started doing comedy, Ray was always a funny guy helping out with open mics with me. And then I said, no, one night, well, maybe you want to get up on stage too at the Broadway Comedy Club. And he did, and he bit the apple too, so he's got the bug. And he's very good and very funny. He talks a lot about family. So I'll give it up for Ray Tyrone.
Thanks, Ray. All right. Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Well, you know, I'm kind of new with this. I did actually do one professional gig at, well, I didn't get paid for it, but I was actually up on the stage at Broadway Comedy, and you know, that was my virgin performance. But you know, I still think of myself as a virgin because I don't think that it's like an all or nothing thing. That you could play the virgin card a lot, like if you want to, and you know, like a lot of times, like I do a new song at karaoke and I say, oh, I lost my virginity again. I did a new song, and one night I did 2 new songs. So I said I lost my virginity twice tonight, if that's possible, you know? And a lot of things are like that. I mean, my father's really old. He's like 86 years old, and he remembers way back when Marilyn Monroe, before she was a virgin, believe it or not. But anyway, I come from a background of Italian family. My mother passed away, but my father, you know, is a real strict family man, and you know, very old school in ways. And he doesn't really understand a lot of things in the modern world, you know, and how the world is changing. Here's just like some examples. You know, when you're 86 years old, you love to hang out with someone who's older than you because there really aren't that many people who are older than you when you're 86. So we have this one cousin, Edith, who's 96, and she's really in excellent health, and he always loved going over to her house. She lived right in the Bronx, and go and visit, and all of a sudden he stopped visiting, he stopped calling, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, what went on. And Dad, why aren't you, you know, in contact with Edith anymore? He says, I can't go over there, Ray. He said, because her grandson's living with her now, and there's this woman, this girl that's living there and cohabitating with the grandson, and they had a kid out of wedlock. I'm like, yeah, so? I said, well, you know, it's not like they're babies, Dad. Gregory is like 40 years old. He's been dating this girl for like 10, 12 years. So they had a kid together. What's the big deal? They're not legally married. The kid is still a bastard. It was born out of wedlock. And he just doesn't understand things like this. And we were at this funeral. As I mentioned, my mother had passed, and he's been dating this woman for like 20 years. And her daughter, her significant other, died. And what happened is she was never married to him. So we're at the wake, and you know, at the casket with my father, and then he's yelling out to me. He's saying, "And Mary is acting like it's her freaking son-in-law that died. It's only some man that her daughter was cohabitating with for the last 17 years." And like, Dad, that's like 3 marriages. Like, come on. But you know, he just doesn't understand it. But you know, like all Italian men, has a good heart and is very family orientated. And when my grandmother, his mother, was getting sick, and you know, it was very hard, and she needed a lot of help, and she had a woman staying with her, and then my father would go over like on a Saturday and help out, and you know, do food errands and do chores around the house. And I sensed, you know, I started going with him because I sensed that he was having like a lot of problems, and he was getting aggravated because I would see him and he would be banging his head on the kitchen table from things that my grandmother would say. So I said, let me go over there. But you know, sometimes it was kind of comical, and this would be like a typical situation of like a conversation that my father would be having with his mother. So my father would say, "Ma! Ma! Did you hear what I said?" "No, Philip. What did you say?" "Ma! Are you wearing your hearing aid, Ma?" "No, Philip, I don't want any lemonade." "Jesus Christ, Ma! Why don't you put your freaking hearing aid so I don't have to yell at you?" "It doesn't work very well, Philip. It's one of those small little hearing aids, and you can't adjust it." "And then what do you want me to do, Ma? Just keep yelling at you all the time? Get a big freaking hearing aid, and then you can adjust it." "I can't do that, Philip, because then everyone will see that I'm wearing a hearing aid, and I'm very vain at 97, and they would see that I'm wearing this hearing aid. I can't do it." "Then And they would always complain that we couldn't find parking, and it really wasn't a great neighborhood, and it really was a lousy neighborhood in Queens. It was Flushing, Queens, and really terrible area. My father would always complain. And then my grandmother would reminisce about how beautiful it was like 90 years ago, because she was born and died on the same block on Prince Street. And basically almost in the same house, and she would be talking about how beautiful it was 90 years ago. The streets were cobblestone, and people would come from miles around, all these rich people, for horse and buggy rides, and the birds were singing in the air, and all the neighbors would pick up all the dog poop and put it, the horse shit, and put it for their tomato plants to make them grow better and everything. And it was just, and then my father's looking and he says, "Ma, this neighborhood is horrible, Ma. There's hookers and drug addicts right on the corner, Ma." "They're not on my side of the street, Philip. They're across the street." "And that doesn't make it any better of a neighborhood, Ma. This neighborhood is horrible. This neighborhood is an asshole. If they ever had to give Flushing an enema, this is where they would give it. Right in your street. Right in the back of your freaking backyard." But I'll tell you, the neighborhood was far worse than either of them could ever have imagined. Because I knew that down the block from them was the Northern Men's Sauna, which is a gay bathhouse. Now, I didn't actually know about this. I only heard about it from my sleazy gay friends. No, actually, I did go there one time. But I don't go anymore. I really don't, because I had an awakening. And here's what happened. I was going over there one day, and I see all these fire trucks outside. I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God. I see smoke billowing from the Northern Men's Sauna. I said, I could have been in there and died. Or worse yet, I could have not died and be walking with a towel wrapped around my ass with nowhere to go and ring my grandmother's doorbell and hope she has in her freaking hearing aid and can hear me and let me in. You weren't expecting like a religious awakening, were you? I have a lot of funny people in my family. My father's sister, my Aunt Marie, she's like a real piece of work. You know, a lot of these people, they're great because they really tell you like it is. They don't hold back at all. As I mentioned, my mother had died and my sister was doing China shopping. That's something normally you do that with your mom, so she was going with my Aunt Marie. And my Aunt Marie is rich and she has some really exquisite taste in this really fine China shop. And my Aunt Marie's at one end of the place, and my sister's at the other end. And my sister comes upon this beautiful piece of china that she just loves and adores. So she gets up there, and she holds it up, and says, Aunt Marie, look what I found. And my Aunt Marie looks from across the hall with a stern look and yells at her, put that down, that's ugly, you don't like that. And then she's always had a lot of funny things too. Another time, my Aunt Marie had this party at a country club, and my sister came, and she had left her husband with the 2 kids, and it actually ended up being a good idea that she did this, because what happened was kind of like a little awkward. She came there and she was telling everyone, announcing that she was pregnant. So she goes up to the table where my Aunt Marie is. She says, Aunt Marie, guess what? I'm pregnant. But after this, Aunt Marie, that's it. I'm getting fixed. I don't want to have any more kids after this. And then my Aunt Marie looks at her and says, what, are you crazy? What happens when you get remarried and you want to have more kids? As far as I knew, my sister was happily married, and you know, my father, of course, was devastated. He was sitting right next to her, and he was like banging his head on the table. But you know, my Aunt Marie was funny too. One of her daughters, she was like 28 or 30 years old, and she was still doing like dance and stuff. You know, anybody have like daughters with these dance recitals? They go on for like 4 or 5 hours, and no matter what their age is, they still want you to like go to these things and pretend to be interested, and then you always have to like give the obligatory bouquet bouquet of flowers afterwards. So my Harry's going to this thing. She hands her the flowers, and not very encouraging words, and she's like, here you go, here's your flowers. She said, but you know what, at your age, instead of giving you flowers, I should be giving you some broccoli rabe to cook up. I have some real winners in my family. I have my Aunt Madeline. She's like 4'10". But of course, like when she puts on her like this big spike heels and wears these big hats, she's like 6 feet tall. And she's like a typical, you know, old Italian woman, you know, plastic on all of the furniture. And, you know, she was never married or anything. So, you know, she kind of, you know, had all this, you know, pent up desires and stuff like that. So she takes things out on people because, you know, she really didn't get laid enough or anything. So she was like just one of these people. And really, really funny. But you also would just tell you things like it is. Like one time, we had a thing at Christmas. Every Christmas we used to like sing songs. My uncle used to have this tape recorder, a reel-to-reel thing, and we'd all tell stories and sing songs. So now he's saying, okay, Madeline, say something nice for Christmas. And this woman never said a nice thing in her life. And I'm thinking, what is she going to say? So she gets up there and says, to all our friends, we wish them well. And to all our enemies, we hope they drop dead. But she really was a spunky old woman. I got to finish up with this last one. She was on Subway and doing shopping for Christmas, had a ton of money with her. And she saw that there was this big guy, and he was looking at her, big muscular guy, and like he knew that she had money, and like he started to reach for a pocketbook and take her money. Well, little did he know what he had in store. She kicked him right in the balls with the heel, the spike of the heel of the shoe. He went backwards, fell down, hit his head on one of the cement stairs on the subway platform. The train comes, she gets into the train, the cops and all these people are there trying to look to see this guy, if he's dead or whatever's happening. The doors close. She opens up the window on the subway and says to him, good for you, you bastard. I hope you drop dead. Well, anyway, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And I appreciate it. I'm going to be on Broadway Comedy with Fran on Wednesday.
Great, Ray. You did a great job. And telling us about your family. Those are all true stories about Ray's Italian family.